this lesson is to create a color wheel mandala design. You're going to need scissors, a heavier Sharpie or marker, and your ebony pencil or a good drawing pencil. And this little worksheet. It's a quarter of a circle, basically. First step, you're going to create a very simple design inside the middle section. I recommend you use the Sharpie, but you can start with a pencil first. This design needs anywhere from 3 to 5 lines in it. So I might do something like this. Please make sure if you're creating a straight design that you're using a ruler. Okay, that's my design. I'm going to go over it now that I'm happy with it with my Sharpie so that this line is very dark. Next up, you need to cut out this shape, any of the solid lines. So cut around the outside of this shape. Next up, we're going to fold on the dotted lines. You're going to fold back so that you can still see your black Sharpie line. Now, because I used a Sharpie line, you should be able to see your lines through the paper. This is thin printer paper, so it should show through. I'm going to go ahead and trace my lines again now on this side, and then I'll open it and fold over the other half and trace those lines. I was having a little bit of trouble seeing it, so I went ahead and traced it on the back side so that when I fold this over, it shows even more clearly. It's hard to tell on the camera, but it shows even more clearly through my thin white paper. Okay, now when I open this up and I flip it back over, I've created 1/4 of my mandala design. Open up to a clean page in your sketchbook. Using a straight edge or a ruler, very lightly draw a cross on your paper. Double check that this can fit, barely. Make sure you've left enough room for this to fit before it falls off the edge of the paper. I'm going to draw a cross, so line it up, try to make sure it's square, and keep this pencil line very light. We're going to try to erase most of that later. Now, the way we do a graphite rubbing, or the way we're going to trace this on here, is to do a graphite rubbing. So take your design, flip it over, and wherever you see your Sharpie lines showing through, put a lot of graphite or pencil lead onto the paper. Remember, I'm on the back side right now. Back to my drawing paper. I'm going to very carefully place it in one of the quadrants. The point should be at the very middle. Now take a sharp point like your pencil or a ballpoint pen, and you're going to very firmly trace over your line design. Make sure that you're pressing hard enough to transfer the line. Pause and check for a second. I can hold my paper and lift up, and I see that it is tracing that pencil lead from the back side of this onto my drawing page. You also need to include the dividing lines. These dotted lines have to be drawn. And I'm going to trace the outside edge. I'm going to fix it up by pencil sketching in any places that turned out blank. Now I'm going to repeat this process 1, 2, 3 more times, turning it each time so that that center is always pointing towards the middle of my cross. Each time I need to re-rub the graphite on the back of the design so I can make sure it transfers and it doesn't leave no image. So I'm just re-putting my graphite on the back really quickly. This poor piece of paper is going to be beat up before you're done. So be gentle with it if you can. Let's stop for a second and clean up our paper. We actually don't want this cross to show because it doesn't make a very pretty final picture. Erase that, anything else. Check your lines. Do you have any places where the pencil line didn't take and you need to sort of fix it? And now it's time to start coloring. So I've grabbed red, orange, yellow, green, blue, and purple, and a black color pencil. These are the colors you need for this assignment. It is up to you if you want to very lightly label out your colors, or another suggestion I have for students is to just give a little scribble with each color so you don't get mixed up as we go along here. You also need to decide which parts of your mandala design are going to be left blank. You can choose, maybe I want that hole to be blank. So if that's blank, then this part around it should be colored. This could be blank, this could be blank, and this could be colored. It's really up to you. I'm trying to decide right now as I sit here. I feel like I want this to be colored. This can be white, and then these two pieces will be colored. So really, the outside edge of my mandala, this doesn't need to be here, my line, and you'll see that in the end. I'll erase it. I like to start red at the top, just a habit. So I'm going to go ahead and mark out my colors. I want this to be red, so I'm going to very lightly with my color pencil basically label my colors by just giving a little very light scribble. Now, this is a 12 section color wheel. So we've got red, red, orange, then orange. We're going to be mixing these two colors to make this section. As I go along here, I've got orange, orange, then yellow, yellow, green, then green, blue, green, then blue, blue, violet, then violet, otherwise known as purple. And lastly, we'll have red, violet. So now I've labeled my color wheel to make it easier for me as I work along. I won't get mixed up or forget something. Your job is to color in this color wheel. Each section should show me the light version of the color, a nice solid version of the color, and a dark version of the color, meaning you're going to add black to it to darken it. You can make that decision right now. Where do you want it to be dark? Where do you want it to be light? I think I want this outside edge of my mandala design to be the dark. So I'm going to start here with my red pencil. I just put down a light layer of the red because what I want to do is actually mix it with the black to create a shade. I'm going to shade in this color. I want to see blending. That's what makes this final design look really interesting. So please don't just color one section solid. I'm going to add a little black up here to make it look dark, but I'm going to blend it so it's not all going to be dark. Just that tip, that outside edge. And now I'm going to take my red and go back over it, much more heavy to try to get those colors to mix and to make this look much more vibrant, almost like a painted color wheel. Now as I work along here, every section I work in, I'm going to make sure I add a little bit of shading, so light and dark areas. I'll make that really vibrant on the outside and light on the inside. And I think here I'm going to color it heavier out at the outside edge and lighter as I get to the inside edge. These decisions are yours to make. You decide where you want light and where you want dark. But I do want to see all three. I want to see a light area of color. I want to see a heavy, vibrant color somewhere. And I want to see that darkened, that shaded color where you've mixed in some black color pencil. Moving on, I could skip right over to my orange color, but I think you understand the concept is the same. I'm going to use my orange and my black. I'm going to work on shading to fill in the mandala section the same. It's this middle one that we need to talk about for a second. Now you've got to work with 3 colored pencils, so your job's a little more difficult. I still want to see the shading, the light area, and some nice vibrant areas. But this time you have to create red-orange. You have to create the color between these two. I'm going to go ahead and start my shading. Actually, I'll start down here. I think it'll be easier. I'm going to mix my red and my orange together. It has to be a different color and it needs to be obvious when you sit back from it. This is good practice in color pencil mixing to create more interesting colors. And just as before, I still want to have a lighter middle and a darker outside edge here. So I'm going to start going back and pressing harder to darken that, but I need to do so with both colors. Now I'm on my outside section where I'm mixing my colors, but I'm also going to have to work in black. So I'm just going to start really lightly and I'm going to build up both colors, and I'm going to be mixing in that black at the same time. So I've done some red, added a little orange, and I'm going to go ahead and add some of that black right now so it starts mixing and blending with those color pencils. Go back over that again with your layers. So over again, I'm going to add more red, more orange, and maybe a little more black before I start going really heavy to make that color more vibrant. From here on out, you're going to watch me repeat the same process of shading all the way around the color wheel, using each of the colors and in between combining the two colors to make what's called a tertiary color. When I'm all done, I am going to use my fine tip Sharpie, my skinny Sharpie. I'm going to go over all the important pencil lines I want to. You can decide whether you want to include the dividing lines or not, but you should probably be outlining the actual mandala design. You may also decide if you'd like to erase this outside edge if you used it, or if you didn't use it, it's up to you. So you can do some erasing and some Sharpie work to finish this project. Now you can watch me go super speed as I finish this.